So let's talk about phenomenological therapy. Look, this is a major subcategory of therapy. And the idea with this is, look, we got a lot of words that kind of mean the same thing. They're not perfect synonyms, but they overlap such that we can almost use them interchangeably as labels, whether it's humanistic therapy, whether it's person-centered therapy or client-centered therapy. How weird is it that we have something called person-centered therapy? Well, it's because if you look at Freud, Freud loved his theory so much. Freud was like a theory-centered guy. His theory mattered more than his clients. Now we look at humanism. The reality is this is a person-to-person thing. This is not like doctor up here, patient down there, as if the doctor knows everything and the patient doesn't matter. We're both human beings. Client-centered therapy, look, the client's the boss. The client can say, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. So this is a shift. What is this a shift from? This is a shift from, I guess the old, I use the word Freudian, but for a while that was the only game in town. Look, Wundt invented structuralism. We know that. And then James had functionalism. And then Freud came along as the first kind of paradigm to actually help people. And for decades, that was the only game in town. For decades, he had a monopoly. I'm not saying it was good. And so you got Rogers comes along. We've seen Carl Rogers in the humanism unit. Rogers says, you know what, I don't like this stuff. I don't want to sit back and be detached. I don't want to be an intimidating doctor with a white lab coat sitting behind someone, goatee, vest, pocket watch. And I don't want to try to figure out my client. The client knows what's wrong with them. Everyone knows why they go to therapy. According to the Freudian idea, it's the doctor that knows you more than you know you. But the Rogerian therapy, the idea of humanism is that everyone knows why they come to therapy. How dare a doctor who doesn't live the client's life tell the client what's wrong with them, especially in the first, second, or third meeting? That's ridiculous. But what are we getting? We're getting the idea that the therapist and the client are equal. There's not a power difference. And at the time, a couple decades ago, that was a pretty big deal. We still think doctors are like so amazing. Medical doctors, they get into a really hard school. They contain secret knowledge about how our bodies and minds work that we don't even have. Now let's look at them as equal. You give me a medical doctor, you give me a PhD who cannot become addicted, who cannot be depressed. Everyone can get ill. And if you look at that, it removes the barrier. It removes the stigma a little bit of doctor-patient relationship. It's not a doctor-patient relationship. It's a person-to-person relationship. I like this one a lot because if you're going to be optimistic, you can't believe that humans are controlled by this unconscious desire, whether it's unconscious social or sexual, or maybe that humans are controlled by an evolutionary instinct. All people have free will. All people can get better. All people can break free. This is actually really kind of a freeing idea. Instead of the idea we're shackled to ancient, instincts or reflexes. Also, check this out. All people want to fulfill their potential. There's not a person in the world that wakes up and says, today I want to be dumber. Today I want to be poorer. Today I want to be less happy. I know we got 2,000 kids in this school, and there are a certain percentage of them that are not doing well. But every single kid in the school wants to do better. If you believe that, do you think that every single teacher in this school wants to be a better teacher? No. You say no. Do you think that, you know what, teachers have reached their level of mediocrity? That's it, they're done. They can't get fired anymore thanks to the union. Is that kind of what it is? You're nodding? One would hope that everyone wants to get better. And according to this theory, everyone can. There's no such thing as a bad person. There's no such thing as really, if you take it to the extreme, a sick person. A sick person is just different. They don't fit in society. Why change the person? Why not change society? Clients will improve on their own. That's huge. That means a client isn't necessarily dependent on any one theory or therapy or technique. Look how different that is from the biological paradigm. None of us can write prescriptions. None of us can write prescriptions for an anti-anxiety medicine. We need the doctor. In this paradigm, no, we don't. The doctor's a coach, a guide, but at the end of the day, healing happens because of us. The client is in charge. It's not like the doctor's going to sit behind you with the pocket watch doing some oogie boogie Freud magic on you, doing therapy to you. Clients have to feel secure, safe, reassured in a non-threatening environment. Therapy can be threatening, especially if you have a scary doctor telling what's wrong with you, stomping around your unconscious, saying, oh my gosh, you really at one point in time really loved your mom. You had the hots for your mom, but you couldn't, and you were scared of your dad. You're like, what? That's the weirdest thing in the world. Of course, we're describing the Oedipal complex, hopefully not any of your home life, because that's weird. All right, what we're looking at, the idea is the clients, just like this classroom. Don't I create in this classroom a non-threatening, secure thing where all of you feel comfortable to express your ideas? Shut up, I did not, that was a rhetorical question. I don't care what you think. So, quiet, don't point out my inconsistencies. The reality is the point here is this is all about a person. Not about what the doctor says, not about what medicine will work, not about proving someone's career. It's about the person getting help from one person to another. You know that a Freudian psychologist, if they're really a true adherent to the theory, is going to say something like, tell me about your mother.
Tell me about your mother.
Tell me about childhood. And you're like, I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about my boss. And they're going to say some mambo pajambo where your boss is represented by something deep in your own blah, blah, blah. What if the client says, no, I want to talk about my boss. My boss drives me crazy. I spend 8 hours a day at work. They're a jerk. I hate them. I want to quit. It's messing with my life. The therapist says, okay, let's talk about it. You're the boss if you're the client. You get to talk about what you want to talk about. Even if the therapist doesn't know where it's going, even if it doesn't belong in some theory found in a textbook. Let's do it this way. Let's talk about teen angst. How many of y'all are mad at your parents? Stupid parents made you alive and stuff, gave you life. Let's get back at them. Let's get back at them for making you. Before you write that down, let's go here. Let's talk about this. I want you to do this. If you're all mad at your mom and you think you need like a get out of trouble free card, see if this is going to work. It's going to work particularly for the ladies if you can be a good actress and kind of make your voice a little way. So your mom's sitting there minding business after everyone ate 2 helpings of hamburger helper. I don't know. She's sitting there knitting. I don't know, maybe you all are playing Parcheesi. Or I don't know, maybe your family, everyone's just beating the crap out of each other. I don't know. So here's what I want you to do. Your mom's sitting on the couch, and I want you to go up, and especially the ladies, guys, you can do it too. It's a little tougher, and you got to get your voice a little softer, half octave higher, like, mommy. All right, you know? And your mom's like, yes. And then here's the question she's been waiting to hear. Can we talk? Can I ask you something? And she's like, oh boy, because she thinks her teen's going to connect with her. She's like mom of the year right now, right? And then so I want you to say, Mommy, are you proud of me? And she's like, oh, honey, of course. And you know, she's all like that. And then you can even see like hugs coming. And then you brought her in. She is like right there. Now you're going to finish the trap. Ready? And you say, why? And she'll say, oh, honey, all the things, you know, you do, you're so active. So you're proud of me for working towards a goal that other people set for me? No, honey, I'm proud of you because you're you. You're such a special person. So you're proud of me for existing. What are you proud of me for, Mom? She doesn't know, does she? She's like, and now, here's where if you really want to score some points, you're like, fine, you don't even know. And then like storm off and slam your door. Will that get you out of a grounding? Karma's taught us anything, it's the universe likes revenge. So as tough as you are on your parents, you will have little hellions for your own children. You will have little freaking monsters. And here's the question you have to ask of yourself. When will you compliment them? Under what condition? When they do something you like? Or when they pursue their own ideas? Will you interrupt their little play thing? They're sitting there 4 or 5 years old, they got their action figures in the family room, they're happy, and you say, time out, it's flashcard time. Do you just like crush their individuality and say, look, society says you need to conform this way. You need to be the top of the GPA. You need to get into this school and that school. What we're discussing is conditional love. And I think your parents only hang up your little report cards if they meet a condition on the fridge. Humanism is going to throw down unconditional positive regard. It's support no matter what. You don't give a compliment when someone pleases you. You give a compliment when it's good for them. Treating a client as equal, not as a crazy patient. You offer support no matter what. Even if they come in and your client says, God, I'm going to kill my boss. God, I'm so mad. You know what? After this, I'm going to just get really, really drunk. You don't say, shame on you, that's awful. You say, okay, I can understand that. Everyone gets mad. Everyone feels like that sometimes. You don't even offer advice. It's a really tough thing to do. And I wonder how many people have an unconditional support relationship with anyone. Is it kind of strange? Your boyfriend or girlfriend only like you if? I don't know what the condition is, but it's pretty rare to have an unconditional relationship. Listen without interrupting. This is a hard skill. Therapists got to learn it. Very few of us have it. Every now and then my wife's talking to me, and she always talks during my shows. I'm like, shh, quiet. And my wife annoyed me really bad the other day. She was like talking or something or other. Like, we never talk. And I'm like, quiet, email me. And then no. So you know what I do to make her mad or tell her to put her in her place? Every now and then, I'm just sitting there on the computer and I leave Match.com open. I said, careful. No. So the reality is, that's probably not right. Well, I tell you, what have I said? I've said it ever since we've started class. I am the freaking boss of my house when she's not home. So we're looking at this. A therapist listens without interrupting. A therapist does not judge or approve. By definition, a medical doctor is going to judge and say, too high hormone, too low hormone, neurotransmitter here, neurotransmitter there. But this kind of doctor is going to be accepting. Because where are we trying to get a client to? What society says is good? Rarely giving advice. Because giving advice makes the client think they can't do it on their own. That they need the doctor's thoughts now. You want to have the client think that their thoughts matter. They know the path towards success. Go ahead.
Isn't that just like listening to someone? Couldn't anybody be a therapist if you just listen to someone?
And so some people say, so why am I going to spend $300 a session for a friend? A rent-a-friend who's really, what am I doing? I'm paying someone so I can talk to them? That is a flaw. That is a flaw. Go ahead.
So if like a patient like asks for the therapist advice, they like do this?
Yes. I mean, there's a whole bunch of extremes. In the extreme of this, no. The therapist will say, well, what do you think? You have the answer in you. What do you think? You can see how that would be really annoying. Questions on that? Speaking of annoying, let's talk about these bumper stickers. Does anyone here have one of these still on the family minivan? Tattered and torn. You tried to rip it off when you started high school so no one would beat you up? Someone's like, how do you know? The reality is, if you've ever had one of these, let's hypothetically say if any of you have actually earned one of these and your parents put it on. The question you have to ask yourself is, notice the pride comes at a condition. Now, if you're taking a Psych 101 class and you've passed Piaget's formal stage, which means you can think abstractly, you know the bumper sticker is actually just an expression of parental pride. But what if you're in third grade, fourth grade? Mommy puts it on there. What's the subtle message? Son, your grade point average goes down, we're taking that off. That's some crazy stuff. Under what condition do you love your kids? If you say unconditionally, that's tough. Do you unconditionally love your kid? Kid comes home and like, Mom, Dad, I lit the neighbor's house on fire. Good job. I'm sure you felt, where do you draw the line? So let's talk about empathy. Notice that the therapist has to care. The therapist has to feel. I don't think any of your primary care physicians actually know your name. I don't think you even see the same doctor. If you go back a couple times, you go to see a practice, there might be 4, 5, 6 different doctors in the practice, and you see a different doctor each time. Maybe like, they know my name. No, they read the chart before they go in the little room. I don't know why they knock before they come in. They're going to tell you to get naked anyway, so it's like, I don't get, never know. The idea here is you got to have a true, if not understanding, maybe a therapist has never been an addict, but they got to understand their client is suffering. That's what we're talking about. Now, related to empathy is congruence. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. You've got to really care. One person to another, that's where the healing begins. And remember, we started this unit that said the relationship's the most important part. But there's a price. There could be a potential danger. Could this lead to the therapist getting involved? Romantically? Possibly. I took an ethics class a long time ago. I had to take it a couple times because I didn't quite get the concepts. But the idea with that is, I swear if I could ever find that book again, out of 14 chapters, six of them said, don't get involved with your client. Don't sleep with your client. Don't be romantically involved with your client. It was like, because you're like, how could that happen? If you are meeting over and over and over again and discussing your deepest feelings, there's going to be a bond, there's going to be an affection. What if it's like this? What if you're a married marriage counselor and all day long you see couples? Are you not going to see echoes of your own marriage in your clients? There's going to be some kind of emotional overtone with that. And it's a risk. It's a professional risk. If we're going to jump into behavioral therapy, let me ask you this question. Can you give a therapist the right to punish you? In certain cases, yeah. I mean, I don't think you could sign a legal disclaimer that says to the therapist and to potential lawsuits, I will never sue my therapist. I give my therapist complete control to punch me in the face if I ever smoke a cigarette again, if I ever do this, ever do that. You can't do that. You cannot sign a contract that allows someone to break a state law and assaults a law. But, and I never heard of Weight Watchers? Okay. Weight Watchers is an interesting concept. They have oftentimes public weigh-ins. You're in a part of a little group, and after a certain amount of time, maybe every week, you go and weigh yourself in front of the group. That's a wild punishment. They don't set it up for a punishment, but is there not the fear of shame? Is there not the fear of judgment? I wouldn't want to do that. There's another exercise program in this area. It's in a whole bunch of different cities. It's called the Sergeant's Program. This group, instead of paying for a personal trainer, say, you're doing fine, great job. Instead of buying a treadmill, put it in your basement, using it for a time or two, then use it to hang wet clothes on, like a mock laundry room. How many of y'all have exercise equipment in your house that is not used? Nicely done. Nicely done. So here's what the Sergeant's Program is. You join a group, and the instructor is going to treat it like, and they are former Marine, oftentimes it's called DI, drill instructors. And on their webpage, they have a little thing called accountability. You don't show up, they will yell at you. They might come knock at your door at 5 in the morning if you don't show up. You don't show up, they'll still bill your credit card. Do you want that? Do you think that would help? It's tough to punish a client. For behavioral therapy, we're going to assume the disordered behavior is learned. Nobody was born being afraid of a clown. And if so, you had some interesting prenatal stuff going on. We want to change the maladaptive behavior into something constructive. I'm not saying necessarily that playing video games is bad. Playing 3 hours of video games at a time, that's probably a little excessive. So, okay, if you tell the person, don't play 3 hours of video games straight, you actually have to take a pee break. What are we going to do? You're going to have to replace the bad behavior with good behavior. We know we're going to use classical and operant. Classical and operant conditioning. But operant conditioning, again, is tough with an adult client. You know why? The client has the power. If the therapist were really trying to apply a system of punishment and rewards, the client's like, I don't like this. See ya, I'm leaving. I mean, if you're going to hire a physical personal trainer and they're too tough on you, you say, look, be easier on me or I'm going to stop paying you. And the personal trainer says, okay. Could you do the same thing with your therapist? Absolutely. Let's look at exposure therapy. I got to tell you all a little secret, a little guilty pleasure I have. How many of y'all have a show that you're kind of embarrassed to admit that you watch? Anyone? Okay. I've got a couple. Have anyone ever seen like Nanny 911 or Super Nanny, those shows? I love that stuff. Because you're really teaching the family how the different behaviors, not just the kid, you're teaching the parents. And what you're going to look at is you want to prevent a tantrum. It's much easier to prevent a tantrum than to have to, go to a battle of wills face off. So what are you might going to do with an exposure therapy is you are slowly going to introduce a stimulus that usually triggers the kid a tantrum. And if the kid starts to get a tantrum, maybe we'll back off a little bit. We want to slowly introduce a noxious stimuli and see what happens. Anyone ever see The Dog Whisperer? I want you to watch The Dog Whisperer and Super Nanny. It's pretty much the same show. You're taking a troubled thing out of the environment and you're reintroducing rewards and punishments. Systematic desensitization. Don't write, just write the word down and the dude's name, because I like that name, it sounds cool. So systematic desensitization, the champion of that is Joseph Wolpe. I know that name's just got to be cool. It's probably good looking too. Don't write down these words. I'm going to try to describe it to you. So imagine a client comes to you and you're a behavioral therapist and they have a phobia of spiders. Now maybe spiders are a reflexive phobia, or maybe we learn it. I don't know. What you're going to do is you're going to have the client get into a relaxed state. 0 being totally chill, almost comatose. 10 being the most panicked you could ever be. So they're at 1, 2, or 3. And they're afraid of spiders. If you've ever been to a therapist's office, maybe they have Rubik's Cubes around, little squishy balls, a little something to play with. You and I both know that I cannot teach without fidgeting. How many of y'all like to fidget? You've got to have something in your hand. Okay, so maybe around the coffee table in the therapist's office, a whole bunch of things to play with. And the therapist says, you know what I want you to do? As you're talking, I want you to take this task. Maybe they're pipe cleaners. I don't even know if you are, because no one smokes a pipe anymore. And if you're like, yeah, I do, that's weird. But maybe you got some thick yarn. 4 pieces of thick yarn. And as you tell the therapist what your problem is, you're supposed to tie them together in the middle. Now, some people can't even tie knots well. But if you do that towards the end of the session, 4 pieces of thick yarn, you tie it together in the middle, what do you have? An 8-legged furry little spider. And then you ask the client, okay, after you did that, how scared are you right now? What's your anxiety level? 2, 3, 2. And they're like, oh, okay. Maybe next week you introduce them to a fake spider on a computer monitor. Maybe the next week you introduce them to a real spider on a computer monitor. If their anxiety peaks to 5, okay, chill, back it off a little bit. And the idea is to slowly make the person less sensitive, which is why we get desensitization, to the thing they're afraid of. All right, notice it's not good enough to just say that a person has OCD or has schizophrenia. That's almost an irrelevant label. If you have schizophrenia, but you know what, you're going to work, you're paying the bills, you're feeding your kids, you're mowing your lawn, you're doing all the things a normal person does, what's the harm? Where's the problem? If you have OCD but it doesn't impact your life, the compulsion, which is the behavior part of it, doesn't impact your life, what's the problem? An alcoholic, that's actually a label. What behaviors do you want to stop? You can't change the label, but you can stop certain behaviors. That's what behavioralism is focused on. I wouldn't write this part down. We know what agoraphobia is, and we know there's a pattern. If a person has agoraphobia, you cure the behavior of constantly staying inside. They've fallen into a pattern, a habit. We want to break the habit. They feel stress, that's negative reinforcement. What do? They retreat in their bedroom, favorite chair to make a little fort out of couch cushion. When you make a little fort or you retreat in your bedroom, favorite chair, or house, notice then the stress goes away. You're almost rewarded for that behavior. And the behavior becomes strengthened. Neurons that fire together, wire together. So it's almost like you rewire your brain according to your phobia. How do you break that behavior? That's the tough thing. That's the art and science of behavioral therapy. I think we know the therapist is going to be as a teacher, as a boss, as a coach. Give homework. That's bad behavior. That's good behavior. Totally opposite. Totally opposite from humanism. Continuous monitoring, frequent adjustments. Think of a personal trainer. Are you losing weight? Are you getting stronger? We've got to change the routine, change the regimen. You can only get a homework pass if you can demonstrate you've earned a sticker over these last couple months. Is there anyone here who's got a Spider-Man or kitten sticker in this class? I see a lot of hands up. Okay. Here's the deal. Now to make it a little bit interesting, how many of you all have at least 2 stickers? A lot of hands. Okay. 2 stickers for a homework pass. You have 4 stickers, you get out of 2 essays. 6 stickers, you got a 3 essay. That's pretty sweet. Now you like this? All right, check it out. You know I'm lying. Ain't no homework pass. But what I did describe very well is called a token economy.
Oh my God.
I am the crusher of hopes, the destroyer of worlds.
I just got excited for nothing.
I know. For 1 second you felt happy. So check it out. Token economy, you see that in Nanny 911. You can even see it in residential treatment areas. Sticker, that's what I'm talking about. Nicely done. We know what extinction is. A lot of these are straight vocab repeats from our behavioralism unit. These words should not appear different to you. You know what positive reinforcement is. It's another word for reward. How many do your parents control your behavior by bribes or threats? Does it work? It's a wild concept. And you think you're going to teach your children differently? Now, how'd you learn how to parent? By your parents. We know what extinction is. It's removing a behavior. Aversive conditioning. I showed you the video a long time ago of teaching coyotes to fear sheep by giving coyotes food poisoning. If something is a bad association, you'll stop doing it. If a behavior doesn't pay off, you'll stop doing it. So if you're going to be a child psychologist, oftentimes the people you got to work with are the parents. You got to teach the parents new behavioral techniques. There's a program out there called the Total Transformation. If you're ever hyper bored, Google it. It's only on like news stations or like old people stations that listen to classic rock, not on whatever stations you listen to. Why are they going to advertise a program to help parents teach teens on teen radio? And so the idea is, I don't know how much money you spend, but you get this kit. And they promise to end your teen's unruly behavior, the disrespect, the back talk. And many of you are thinking, oh my God, what is it going to do? What is in this box? Is it going to melt my mind? No. The reality is it's behavioral training for parents. If you roll your eyes at your parents, from a parent's point of view, what should you do? Oh, get back here, young lady. What do? Do you jack your kid up against the fridge? Do you ignore? That's a wild concept because everything should have a stimulus response or punishment or reward attached to it. We know what punishment is. I'm not going to review positive and negative punishment. Everything we've learned from the behavioralism unit can be applied in therapy. Within reason, a therapist cannot actively hit, punish, kick, or strike someone. Although, in an extreme case, there are some advocates for people who have such developmental disabilities, grown-ups who are so autistically impaired, they don't respond to the environment. One advocate, extremely rare, very controversial, says, well, maybe, just maybe, we want to cause them a little bit of physical pain. You're like, what? And the idea would simply be this. If you have a 35-year-old man who is so autistic, refuses to have eye contact, nonverbal, extreme, the concept is if you cause them a physical pain, they will look up. They will move their behavior. They might stop their rocking behavior. And the idea is you can gently shape someone. Chaining is linking successful things behavior. First, you get the person to look in the eye. Second, you get the person to smile. What we're looking at is we're going to rechange the behavior in vivo. In vivo means real life. It means it used to be difficult, but now virtual reality. What if you're a phobia therapist? Are you going to keep like a spider, a snake, a rat? But with really cool virtual reality programs, you can get someone to be immersed in an environment where there might be a spider or heights or a snake. Modeling. This is a career many of you all will not have, but it is a very, that's not right. Someone's like, I know, you jerk. Client watches a therapist. Imagine husband and wife, teenage girl and mom. They're just at each other's throat. So what is the therapist going to do? The therapist is going to show them how to respond to sarcasm, how to respond when someone angers you or annoys you. You don't hit. You don't reply with sarcasm. Many people don't know. They literally don't know how to respond appropriately. So you have to show them. Think of Bandura and Bobo. People do what they see. And this is important because maybe, just maybe, we can have role playing. Let's say that you are intimidated by your boss. And your boss always says, honey, go get me some coffee. Male boss talking down to a female employee. Hey, sweetheart, you look cute in that skirt. Why don't you move your butt and go get me some coffee? But you know what? People are intimidated. People hate confrontations. And you can't be like, F you, you'll get fired. How do you learn to stand up for yourself? How do you learn assertiveness unless you practice the behavior? Let's talk about flooding. Anyone ever see the Indiana Jones movie? The first one, the actual good one, not the one where he's like 180 years old and he gets blown up by a nuclear bomb in a fridge. Did you see that scene? Worst scene ever. I'm talking about the one where he hates snakes. And what do? They throw him in a pit of snakes. That would be flooding. The idea of flooding is if what my daddy did to me when I was afraid of the water. I had aquaphobia. I was a little boy. My daddy threw me in the deep end, said swim or die. All right, then he threw bricks at me. I don't think he likes me. What I'm suggesting, right? Flooding is the redneck way of saying, oh, you know what, you're afraid of spiders? All right, well, here's a spider. Put it on your face until you're not afraid anymore. That's not cool. Generally doesn't work. We stay away from that. The opposite of flooding, systematic desensitization. Good? Baby, we done. Now look, if karma has taught us anything, it's that the universe likes revenge. You'll notice only a true redneck can use a triple negative.